principal engineer at Experience. So he has a background working at the IT companies in the Silicon Valley for many companies. And today he's gonna present us the dev container, the ultimate hack to fix messy developer setup. So in this talk, we will get to know about the dev container and how does this one, the dev container makes your life easier. So please welcome Mr. Mani. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I think someone told me that since I am the first talk today, I have to wake up everyone. For that, I have to wake up myself. Hopefully, this is interesting and you like the talk. Um, yeah, so I think we lost. Okay, so let us start from here, right? How to manage dependencies without having to learn this dog's name is Brandy. Um, Sounds strange, right? It's strange. So let me tell you a short story. So I was trying to set up a project, an existing project, in my local laptop once, and when I was trying to do that, I ran into dependency issues, which we all do with different programming languages. Right? That time it was Python, and I was running into a Python dependency issue, and one after another, like the package that I installed was not compatible with the one that is required. And as any engineer would do, I started Googling for the error that I got. And I ended up in a Stack Overflow thread. I was looking into the answer. And while browsing through the answer, a cool meme popped up. And we don't ignore that, right? It is the law. When there is a meme, you look at it. And while looking at the meme, then I got into the world of memes. I took my mobile phone. I looked at 100 other memes before finding the perfect one to send it to our friend. It was 2 a.m. in the morning. It was important, right? And while looking at the memes, there was one meme with Brad Pitt, actor Brad Pitt in it. I mean, I love the actor. So I was curious, what is he doing right now? I started Googling what is Brad Pitt doing right now. And I ended up in a news article which spoke about this dog. This dog acted with Brad Pitt in the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And that is how I got to know that this dog's name is Brandy. Now that I know, you all know that this dog's name is Brandy. Now, where did I start? I started looking for dependency issue, and I ended up here. So it's very easy to get lost in internet, right? So this, I mean, it works on my machine is a common thing. I mean, if you look for the memes, I mean, you would find hundreds, thousands of memes about that. When you have a application setup, it should work in everyone's machine, right? Not just my machine. And as developers, we don't want to waste hours spending hours setting up our dependencies, right? And not everyone's laptop will be running the same operating system. So someone might have Mac, I might have Windows, and the application itself might be hosted in Linux. But we want our application to work anywhere, and especially as a developer, we want the setup to be easy, right? And dev container is one of the ways to resolve this dependency issue. Now, what is a dev container? Before we get in there, so this is not something new. This has existed for a while, but I found that not many people are using this, which is why I want to do this talk. And I have tried to squeeze in as much information as possible within 15 minutes of my talk. And there is more. You can always look up for more information. And I have given a GitHub link where I have hosted a sample project with dev container in it. So what is a dev container? Um, so it is a pre-packaged developer setup. It runs with Docker with pre-configured tools. Tools like, before tools, you'll have your operating system, which operating system you want to start with, and like whatever the tools you need. If you have Python, you would install all the pip dependencies, and if you run Ubuntu and you want to install operating system dependencies, you can do that with your Docker file. And it will be the same on any OS. You can bring up the container and get started right away. You don't have to worry about installing dependencies. Now, why dev container? So number one is reproducibility. So if it works on my machine, it will work on everyone else's machine, which is very important when we work as engineers, right? When there is a bug, we want to reproduce this, which is very important for us to like solve the bug itself. And dev container will help us with that. And number two is security. So how is it secure? So I mean, when we install anything from outside world, there is a chance that we might give access to our host machine to somebody else. I mean, there is a chance, right, with everything. But when you run inside the container, um, then you localize that to only with the container. It will not be the whole host. In that way, it is secure. But if you mount the slash to the container and run it as root, then it is a different story. But if you run it with the best practice, I mean, I believe it is more secure than running in the host itself. And number three is documentation. No matter how many README pages we write, no matter how many Confluence pages we have, there is a possibility of having drift. The code might have evolved. We might have installed new dependencies, but the documentation may not be up to date. But when you have your dev container and dev container.json file, which I'm going to talk about in the next slides, it will be a living documentation for you. So anyone can look at that and see what the dependencies are and how you are installing. And it enables remote development also. I'll talk about more about remote development in one of my next slides. So what is inside dev container? I spoke a little bit in a previous slide also. It has pre-installed developer tools which you need to bring up your application. And so you can, in my case, I use Visual Studio Code. You can have extensions per container. You don't have to like whatever extensions you need for your Visual Studio IDE, you can specify it in your dev container.json file, and that will be localized only for that application. And it has pre-configured terminals where you bring up container. So when you open a terminal from VS Code, it's going to open a shell within the container where you'll have access to all the files, and you can run commands as if you're in a normal terminal. And it will be a consistent environment across team, no matter whatever the operating system that they run. How to use a dev container? Step one is you need a dev container extension. So Visual Studio, as an example, so you can like go for extensions and look for dev container extension and install it. And step two is to add a dev container.json file, and that is where you will specify what your Docker file is. And once you have a dev container.json, your Visual Studio will automatically detect it and ask you if you want to reopen in a container. And once you click on that, boom, and the magic happens. You will be up and running with the dev container with all your files mounted inside the container. You'll be able to edit the files as is in a host, but it will be reflected in the host as well because it is mounted as a folder. Yeah, this is an example. So I have the demo code link here, which is in GitHub. You can look at it later if you're interested. And so we'll have a settings.json usual, which will have Visual Studio project settings. And dev container.json is the one that we have added for um, telling what is the Docker file and where it needs to be mounted, all those things. And how it will work is local folder will be mounted inside the container. And so this is a sample Docker file. So I have given the Docker file. So one and forwarded port is basically I have started up my application in port 8000 within the container, and forwarded port 8000 means the port will be exposed to the host in port 8000. And mount is where you mount the local folder, uh, host folder to inside the container, and the custom extensions which you can add uh, for your Visual Studio. This will these extensions will be installed only for that container instance. So I since this is a 15-minute talk, I couldn't do a live demo, so I've recorded it here. I'll walk you through as this goes. So I have a fast API project, Python fast API project. I'm just opening that. I just have the cloned folder. So all I'm doing is opening that folder. Um, so once I open, Visual Studio opens it here, and it will prompt saying, I have found a dev container.json file. Do you want to open in a container? So once I click on that, so if the Docker image is not built yet, it will start building. Or if you have specified a Docker image that is in Docker Hub, it will pull the image. So since I have already built it, it starts up the container with the image. It has already started. So now you see all these files here, right? This is from inside the container. So now any change that I make here, that is going to reflect in the host. And so what I'm doing with this app is I'm just running a fast API with Uvicon, and which is on port 8000, and you can see like this host port 8000 is exposed here within the ports. Now, if we open a terminal, it should open up a terminal within the container. Now let us start the app. So I am just starting my main.py. Python path is current folder, and starting main.py, which is my main file. So now application startup is complete and open in browser. Hello FOSSASIA is what we want as the application to print. That's pretty much it. So no matter, if you clone the code that is in GitHub, all you need is have Docker installed in your machine, and you can just get started as is. Like it will prompt for deopen in container, and you just open it and you get started. So this will be the same for like anyone who tries to do that. Simple, right? And so how is it like enabling remote development? Like now that we are in AI world, uh, so so we might want to build a model in powerful machines. For example, I may not have the GPUs that are required to build a model. I might go for a cloud provider who would give the GPUs. So when I have that, I want my application to code to run in a remote cloud. So if you run as a container, then you can connect to that remote machine that is running the code, and it is the same setup everywhere. So you can basically escape slow corporate VPNs, and you can connect to the cloud and start working there. And so now wrapping up. So with dev container, it's pretty much zero setup time. So once you clone the code, you can just get up and running, and it offers remote development support as well. And dev containers just work as we saw. And fronts don't let other fronts struggle with setup, right? That is pretty much I had on dev containers. Thank you so much for listening to me so far. Hope it was useful. Thank you. And I have my coordinates here if you want to connect. Thank you. Yeah.
Any question? Yeah.
So we have only 2 minutes. We can take questions here. And if there is any more questions, you can catch me around here. Yeah.
Question is around like they would only one application.
Yeah.
Let's say if there are multiple applications, consider an example of microservices
Mhm.
where you have like different teams are working at a different location
Right.
and different work streams, right? So
Right.
how in that case that containers will come into picture and how it will help?
So your question is, I mean, we might have different applications which needs to like work together,
Yeah.
right? If I bring up a container, it might need another dependency like MySQL. Okay, yeah. So yeah, good question. So I mean, when I am developing something, I mean, I can put all my dependencies in a different container and bring up that container. I mean, it's called sidecar container. For example, I mean, if I want, MySQL to be up and running, I can have it running as a sidecar, and you can like use that to connect when your application is developed locally. Yeah, and same is in staging, testing, or production anywhere. You can run it as a sidecar. That is one solution. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, somewhat like.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, I have a API
Uh-huh.
which gives me a login.
Okay.
It authenticates myself.
Got
So
it.
that is running as a separate container or a
Okay.
separate service altogether.
Got it.
There is a booking service
Okay.
that takes that authentication.
Got it.
You know, the booking team is different and the authentication team is different.
Got
In
it.
that case, how this container will come?
Oh, okay.
So that's the reason.
Got it. So assume you have a different application altogether, which is cloned separately, and you are doing development separately. So if you're working on this application, you can just bring up that container separately and connect to it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we can connect.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll be around. Thanks.